Double P podcast. Double P.
What I like to call
Double P.
What I like to call
Double P podcast. Double P podcast. Double P.
What I like to call
Double P.
What I like to call
Double P podcast. Double P podcast. Double P.
What I like to call
Double P.
What I like to call
Double P podcast. Double P podcast. Double P.
What I like to call
Double P.
What I like to call
Double P podcast. Double P podcast. Double P podcast. Double P.
What I like to call
Double P.
What I like to call
Double P podcast.
Welcome to the Double P Media Empire.
What I like
Yes.
to call
Tonight is a very special podcast.
Watch
What I like
out.
to call
I am your host, Catfish.
In many ways.
It sounds strange for me to talk first and also not to be looked at like I'm messing up already at the beginning of the podcast.
I don't know where else to look.
No, I'm talking about Bubba. That's how he usually looks at me, like I've already messed up. So joining me, you've already heard the dulcet tones of...
This is Mork, everybody. How are you?
And Mork, how can everybody reach you on social media networks?
Oh, they can find me at Extraordinary Catfish.
Oh, that is a W. It's like extraordinary, but with an extra rye on it.
Exactly.
Like a ham on extraordinary.
Absolutely, Catfish. What about you?
You can hit me up at CJGman67.
Love it.
My Twitter handle, just as original as my thoughts on many of the programs we watch here at the Double P Media
That's quite all right.
Network.
That's quite all right.
All right, so tonight...
And Bubba probably already is annoyed. So,
I mean, I just take that as a standard.
Yeah.
Bubba's annoyed.
yeah.
Mork, this isn't the first time that you and I have covered something like this. One time we covered a Big Splash panel on
true.
the People versus O.J. Simpson.
I know. What I remember about that was
I can't imagine.
it was really the way that they had just toasted the bread
Yeah.
just ever so
Yeah.
slightly. So sometimes if they over toast bread, it scratches the top of your mouth. It was so perfect. It was just a slight crunch, and then you went right into the juicy turkey. I mean, it was unforgettable experience.
Beautiful. Well, we are going to cover all things food and otherwise for two events. One event that we went to together.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about an event that I went to by myself that was amazing.
Okay.
And that you could have gone to.
I could have, but also I could not have.
Okay, well,
But
that
was
is a
Good
great...
Omens, right?
That is Good Omens. So first we were going to talk about Deadwood.
Welcome
We got
the
to
fuck
see,
back.
that's what it says on the, hopefully Bubba will tweet out along with this podcast, picture, a picture of the nice swag bag that we got that had food in it that we won't talk about, but was an awesome little bag. So we got to go see a big swank premiere early, and afterwards there was a lot of really important people there, important to the Deadwood universe.
Sure, yeah, it was. We got it was a moderated chat by a fellow who we've been reading over the years, Matt Stoller-Zeitz.
Yeah, something like that.
I think I got it right.
Something like that. I've enjoyed reading him a lot more than I enjoyed watching him moderate.
I think he was probably he might have been a little nervous. Like
It could be. I would say this.
we
There was
were.
a panel of about 9 people there. And if you're leading a panel of 9
tough.
people, you probably should address questions to specific people instead of just a general question. And the 9 people are like, are you going to go? I don't want to be a dick. Are you going to go?
Yeah.
Also, one other suggestion, don't ask questions that only require a yes or no answer.
Oh, yeah, that is true. But I mean, there were some heavy hitters.
There were heavy hitters. We had Timothy Oliphant, who was very funny.
Yeah, he is way funnier than Seth Bullock. I mean, it's markedly more.
It's funny because at one
interested
point,
in joviality.
he said when he told his wife that he got Deadwood because he was.
Well, should we tell that story?
Yeah, let's tell that. That's what I'm doing. We're telling the story right now.
Well, you're skipping ahead to the.
That's okay. This is just a. Look, we got to watch it early. But once people hear this podcast, they will have gotten to watch it already. So the only value added we can give here, besides your stunning insights, is some behind the scenes stories that we heard
Oh, I just meant
from
you
the
were,
huge panel.
I just meant you were cutting off the beginning part of that story about.
Well, the part was that he was scared because he didn't usually get those kind of roles.
Right.
So he decided to just go in and stare.
Yeah, when he met with David Milch, and it was anybody. I don't remember if anybody else was there, but yeah, he didn't say a word.
Yeah, he
there
decided
had to
to
have
just
been
stare.
someone else there, because if it was just two people and one guy is just glaring at the other,
Works for me.
it would kind of be like this.
I feel like I'm
podcast.
doing that right now with you, since we're sharing one microphone.
Yeah.
I feel like we are staring right at each other.
We don't have a
Okay,
choice.
so when he got home, they called him. They said, "It was great. You were very intimidating."
Yes.
So then he tells his wife he got the job because they pictured him as the strong, silent type.
Yes.
And his wife's reaction, do you remember, Mork?
extreme laughter.
Extreme
She
laughter.
may have peed her pants. That wasn't in the story. Just want to be clear. That was not in the story, but that's how funny she thought it was.
I have to say, Ms. Catfish said she used to listen to Timothy Oliphant. He used to call into like a sports radio station.
KCRW. No, it wasn't.
Oh, sorry, right. But he would cover sports.
It was, yeah.
And she said it was hilarious. I have to confess, I never thought that Timothy Oliphant was funny until I saw him in the Santa Clarita Diet. And I have to tell you, he is really genuinely funny with he has a real kind of buoyant sense of personality in that, which is completely opposite to his sense of humor in Deadwood.
Well, but I was thinking about that after you remarked on how funny he is on Santa Clarita, which I've yet to enjoy. I'm boycotting Netflix for a story we'll get to later.
Oh, good. I can't wait.
Let's just say their snacks are not the same as HBO's.
Well, it's all about the snacks.
All about the snacks. But I do think that a character who is so serious and willful, it has to be played by somebody who can exploit the tiny hints of lightness and levity that there are. Because there are some moments in the movie, there wasn't as much time because it was just a movie, but in the show,
Right.
there are some moments that are actually, just because they're real human moments, that they can't help but be funny. So it doesn't surprise me, but it was really fun to watch him on stage.
I
Ian
mean, it
McShane
surprised
was
me.
there.
Yeah. Ian McShane,
Amazing.
Robin Zweigert was there.
I don't think there's a Z. I think it's just Robin Weigert.
I'm going to call her Zweigert because I don't care.
That's totally fine.
She told some great stories. Who else was there?
Kim Dickens.
Yeah, Kim Dickens was
John
there.
Hawkes was there.
John Hawkes.
And also the director of the film, Daniel Minahan, was
Right.
there, who's directed a lot of the episodes. One of the producers, Greg Feinberg, as well as Carolyn Strauss, one of the other producers.
Yeah, and then they actually brought a writer up
And
at the end,
and
which was
Regina
great.
Corrado was there.
who Double P fans, loyal listeners, will recognize her as what? Mork.
as one of the driving forces of Bubba's favorite show, The Strain.
Oh, that is one of his favorite shows, and probably why. I mean, it's The Strain. It's not a surprise. I mean, you really see a lot of the DNA of Deadwood
There's
in
a lot
The
of
Strain.
Well, particularly when it comes to Nora's mom's daughter, Nora, his mom.
Yes.
That I'm a little out of practice on that one, but
Perhaps we should role play it.
no, that's quite all right. Well, if we need to.
Okay.
If we need to.
Well, later. Let's do it after the podcast.
Okay, all right. I'll be Zach. But yeah,
You always had to be Zach.
It's because I can barely reach the microphone. It was. I mean, the movie was great. The stories were great. Ian McShane had, and I'm sure there were definitely times where they sort of shifted into interview panel mode, where you can tell they've told these stories maybe once or twice before, but I hadn't heard them, so it was great.
No, they were great.
But
And one of the stories we'll talk about later, or whenever we come up with it again, if we remember it again, was Robin Weigert told the story, and everybody on stage was like, "What are you? We've never heard that story before." And all the times we've been together,
right? Not the audience, but her cast members.
Her cast members had never heard it before, and then we stood up and we said, "Well, we've also never heard it before, Robin."
Yeah, like what are we, chopped liver?
So let's talk about that story since we're here.
Sure, let's do it.
All right. So this was her story of auditioning. Apparently, she's working in New York.
Yeah, she was a real actress in New York.
And
City, not Albany.
yeah,
City.
she was in the city.
Yeah.
And she told kind of an interesting story. There's people have said that that there's a kind of two kinds of acting where you kind of work from the inside in and the
Okay.
out,
Well,
the
you're an
inside
actor.
out,
You can talk
or the
about this.
outside in. And she made a good point. She said usually she doesn't work from the outside in, but for Calamity Jane, she worked from the outside in.
Yeah.
Got some costume pieces, kind of messed with her
Sure.
hair and her face,
Some
and
the
kind of
feather.
looked in the mirror and tried to kind of get this character.
She tried to be as rough and brutal and as tough because, Calamity Jane, this is the post-Civil War. She had to handle a lot of rough characters. She's a tough person in real life. And after I think it was after she read for them.
Well, she said, I tried to just be as tough as I could possibly
Yeah.
be. I just wanted to be tough and rough.
Tough and rough.
And so what did they wanted to come for callback.
Yeah.
But they gave her some feedback. And what was that feedback?
Well, they commended her on how well she accessed the vulnerability
right.
of Calamity Jane.
Right.
So she had to kick it up a notch. We don't know how she did, but she did it.
Well, it's an interesting story. You don't hear about everything. You just have to infer things. Well, first of all, so she decided to rent some costume pieces for her audition.
Sure. Have you
Now,
ever done that, Catfish?
No, I have not. Now, I usually will. I mean, here's the thing.
Okay.
I usually go in for kind of smaller things. So when I go in for something,
I think
and
you would have been great as Calamity Jane.
when I go in as a doctor, I
right.
don't wear a doctor's outfit. When I go
Okay.
in for like military stuff, I don't go in dressed. And when I see people fully dressed, I think this is just embarrassing. They don't really ask for that anymore. You just want a sense of it. Like if you're
Right.
going in for a doctor or something professional,
Yeah.
don't wear a t-shirt,
Okay.
but also not a doctor's jacket and a stethoscope hanging around your neck.
Okay.
Just don't do it.
All right.
So anyway, she did this for the bigger parts. Maybe it works also she's from the theater, so people would be like, whatever.
Just give me 1 minute. I'm going to take off my stethoscope. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, that reminds me of my joke. We'll have Bubba cut this. What's 12 inches long and hangs down in front of an asshole? A stethoscope.
Hey!
That's a nurse joke. No, nurse told me that joke. So she was in New York. She rented the outfit in New York. Now this will happen on big shows.
Yeah.
If you're like a New York actor and they want you to test in Los Angeles,
Right.
they'll fly you out.
Yeah,
So
no.
they flew her out. They put her up.
Get over
she
here.
was dressed. Was she dressed on the plane in or the plane out?
The plane out.
She was dressed on the
She
plane
had to
out.
Fly back.
Yes. So on the way in, though, she dressed in her hotel room and had to walk across Avenue of the Stars.
Right, yeah.
Dressed that way.
Yeah.
And apparently she got the role the same day, though, she said.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
That's never happened to me.
It's happened to me. So that was a great story. That was the story that no one had ever heard before.
Yeah.
Dressed and...
And it should be noted that I don't want to say that something to the effect that she cleans up really well, because Calamity Jane, she just got incredibly dirty, and in real life she's a lovely, striking lady.
I'm going to pivot right to
Okay.
the movie itself.
Let's do it.
Talking about Calamity Jane.
Okay,
Because
sure.
for me, I felt like they thought, okay, we got to get a lot of things in to this movie.
They
So I thought that was one storyline that was really like, we're just going to do a shorthand of this storyline, guys. You're just going to have to accept that, like,
Oh, Calamity Jane?
yeah, the Calamity Jane storyline. It was like,
Well, that's-
I love you, I'm horrible.
Well,
Okay, let's get together. I mean, they really had to
You
like
mean in terms of-
abbreviate the
Right.
storyline. The path to forgiveness was rather quick.
Well, I would say, and you're talking specifically about her relationship with
Yeah,
Joni
with
Stubbs.
Joni Stubbs, correct.
Which they hinted at in the show in seasons 2 and 3, but it never really seemed to go as far as it had, which is nice. But I actually think that they gave her one of the cooler moments in the movie.
Okay.
And it's actually something that she didn't get to do too much of in the show, where she actually she saves Bullock. She's the one who, when Bullock is going to get shot in the back
Right.
by his his
The
lackey,
the gouty deputy.
the Gowdy deputy,
GD.
GD, yeah, the double G,
Double G.
the Gowdy gendarme.
Oh, nicely done.
Yes.
Fancy.
But so he's got his back to the double G, and this is after Hearst is in jail, and it's Calamity Jane that saves him. Now this is Calamity Jane who, when the little girl Sophia, she was guarding Sophia when Swearingen came, and this is way back in episode 2 or 3. And she was supposed to guard her and protect the little girl.
Right.
Swearingen just stares at her, and she literally bursts into tears. So she failed miserably at protecting the little girl. She failed miserably at protecting Wild Bill Hickok, even though that wasn't really her. He didn't really need protection.
Right, but she's taken that on, of course.
Yeah,
right.
she's taken that along. And then also when our buddy Francis Wilcott or Walcott, played by the amazing Garrett Dillahunt. W-Cott. Okay, that's what I thought too. And Joni busted a bottle over Wilcott's head, but Calamity Jane was supposed to be protecting Joni as well, and she did not do it. So there are all these moments throughout the show where Calamity Jane was supposed to save these people. She had done great work in the pest tents and all that.
The circus, okay,
and the circus also.
Right.
But this is the most heroic act.
Okay, all right. So you thought she had a good storyline. I just thought that getting them
quick.
together was more like kind of fan service. We're gonna do this, but apparently they are super close friends in real life.
Yeah,
which is nice to know.
Yeah,
I knew you mentioned Garrett Dillahunt.
Yes.
It's amazing. Now, double L's loyal listeners should know that at the time we're recording this podcast, we saw the movie a few days ago. We will not have seen it again. So Mork,
man,
you're
hurts.
still not sure.
Well,
you still don't believe me
I
saw Garrett Dillahunt in a beard. It's right after all the townspeople
beat up Hearst.
And then Seth, get away. He drags him away. And then he comes on the screen. You just see his left side. And he's like, get him out of here, or something like that. I'm like, oh, my God, Garrett.
Yeah, it could be. We haven't seen it since. Number one, he wasn't in the credits. Number two.
Well, the credits were very short that we saw. We only saw 6 actors in the credits. There was a lot more speaking roles than there were in the credits.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, a person that I know who was very briefly in it, the drunk guy at the wedding, was in the credits, which is bizarre because he just had that one scene. But then he also got to dance at the wedding, so I'm sure he got lots of good work out of that.
Well, that's a big deal if he got to dance.
Sure.
That's amazing.
The amazing thing is, right now, we've not seen it again. And whoever's listening to this podcast will know whether I'm right or you're right.
If you're right, then
what happens?
Tweet at Bubba, and that's Fit and Trim, FITTENTRIM. Which one of either Catfish or Mork is correct, and then he'll be the judge.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
we trust him.
No. Let's let the listeners be the judge.
Well, they're all going to vote, and then he's going to tally them.
I don't trust him. He's like the kid collecting votes at the vote for the high school class president who's stuffing the ballots.
Maybe.
There's one other story I'd like to talk about. We could do some other stories afterwards after and then you got some important points you want to make about it.
I don't know about important, but just some of my favorite things.
Okay, great. So another funny story was when Timothy Oliphant was talking about, he came to his trailer one day and he said that he heard some scuttlebutt on set that the parents of the kid, the actor playing his son, were
his adopted son.
We're kind of being trouble, and he said, I just ignored it, I just avoided it, whatever. And then he said about an hour later, David Milch comes knocking on his trailer, and he opens the door and he says, what's up? And Milch says, we got to kill the kid. So apparently, just because the parents misbehaved, were causing trouble, they killed the kid and then made it a big part of the season storyline. And that's one thing. And that's one thing that came up over and over again. You know, it's funny because they were telling, obviously, this David Milch is not in a great space right now. Very sad space.
Unfortunately, he's suffering from
Alzheimer's. Right. So there was a lot of great things said about him, and they mentioned, but through the stories, you could tell that possibly this was a very challenging, not possibly, that this was a very challenging set to work on because it was all out of his creativity. In other words, there were a lot of stories told about how he took things from people's personal lives or things they told him and enveloped it in the storylines, and they really liked that. But there were also stories of like, one other story, he said, okay, I'm going to write this. I want to write a scene with Seth and John Hawkes. Sorry, Timothy Oliphant and John Hawkes with the minister.
Yes.
And
Ray McKinnon.
So find out if he's available today. So they called him and they said, get here. He had like 2 hours to get to the set. The producer called Ray McKinnon and said, can you be available? Can you get here? Okay, get on the 405 right now. And Ray McKinnon said, well, what's the scene about? And he says, I have no idea. It's not been written yet. So, and that was the scene where the minister was talking to the boys about.
This is towards the end of season 1, where he's got a brain tumor, and he's just very, very close to losing all of his faculty.
Right.
And it's at night. They're closing up the shop, and he stops by, and it really is. I actually went and watched it again.
Good.
And it's a very touching scene.
Yeah. Again, that kind of, when it's sort of kind of one person running the show, that can lead to joy and also heartache. I mean, it's lucky that it was somebody who is very, I mean, I don't know if you want to call him brilliant, but
I would. Oh God, yeah. I would definitely call him brilliant.
Okay, I just didn't want to overstep my bounds with you, Mork. So
look, there's only two. There are only two forms of brilliance I recognize. One is David Milch. The other is Pullo.
Perfect. He deserves his own name.
I actually had
no real names on the podcast.
Oh, that's sorry about that.
Let's call him Hoover.
Okay,
that's what I should have called him. So, I mean, all I wanted to say, in addition to that, was just that. So they said by the time they got to the 4th episode of the first season, there were not regular pages or scripts ahead of time.
Right.
A lot of times everybody would be on call and they wouldn't know what they were shooting the next day. So obviously it was very challenging, but everybody talked about it, and I think in a serious way, how this was one of the most amazing shows that they worked on. John Hawkes said the 2 favorite experiences of his life was working on Deadwood the show and Deadwood the movie.
Deadwood the movie, yeah.
So
yeah, it was like he had an epiphany.
Yeah, he had an epiphany about the best working.
I actually got to see David Milch. This is years ago at some similar type event, and you don't expect much out of these things. A lot of these screenings can be pretty painful. The Q&As and the moderators and all that. This was great. We had a great time on Wednesday, but just overall, sometimes they can be tough. But I don't even remember what he was talking about, but he gave probably a 30-minute soliloquy, and it was clearly right off the top of his head about, I don't remember what it was about, but it was just, the place stopped. I mean, it was just stunning, because everyone was like, oh my God. Like, it was just a guy pulling back the curtains of the universe. That's what it felt like.
Well, that's what Timothy Oliphant said. He could talk. Yeah. He was the smartest guy in the room, and he could talk. He could go on about anything, and it was just amazing to be around him. So,
and it sounded like they were. I mean, one, obviously there was just great affection for David Milch, but also, it was the most challenging job a lot of them ever had, but it was also the most rewarding job. I mean, if it was just hard and it wasn't good. I don't think they'd look back on it as fondly as they do, but you could tell they really cared about each other. They really enjoyed, having worked on the show and having, worked with each other on it.
I mean, me personally, I would be happy to do a scene where they're like, I don't know if we're going to use you today, but they put you on hold.
Yes.
Because you still get paid.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet money.
Yeah.
But I never got to work on Deadwood, sadly. And some people got to work on it 3 times.
That is, well,
damn Dillahunt.
At least the over under is 2.5. So
I'm taking the over. So Mork, what else do you want to say? I mean, I just want my general thoughts about it. My thoughts afterwards were honestly like I was just sad. I just want to see more Deadwood. I thought it was greatly written. It was great to see these characters again, and like that's what I told Bubba. He's like, so what do you think? I said, I just want more. I feel bad. I want more.
It was fantastic, and it's a shame that there wasn't that it didn't have a longer run. Sorry about that. One thing that I really enjoyed was, so obviously we've all seen it at this point, and Al, it doesn't seem like is going to be around much longer than after the credits are rolling. And
I think, see, this is one of the times you were zoned out. I'm pretty sure he had his last squeeze and release. I think I'm 98% sure that he passed during the actual movie. I don't think he's hanging on somewhere.
No, I definitely.
This isn't Game of Thrones. Just because we didn't see someone say he's dead.
I definitely don't. Definitely don't think that that he's fighting. But yeah, I wasn't.
No, he's dead.
I agree that he's dead.
He died during the movie.
Okay.
You're still you haven't passed you haven't gone through all the stages of grief yet, Mork.
I haven't. Well, if I can explain because I was looking out the window of Swearingen's bedroom, and I thought I saw Garrett Dillahunt.
Okay,
so that was why. But
you wish you saw Garrett Dillahunt and it wasn't me.
Okay, so here's why I felt like it was. I thought he had, and then the way that, and this is actually something I really liked, the way that Trixie was lingering in Al's room. So this is why I think he was maybe unconscious, but not dead, was because there's this great moment where Saul Starr is holding his baby that came from his marriage and all sorts of reproductive activities with Trixie,
right?
And is on his balcony, and he's staring across at Trixie.
Yeah.
And she's looking back at him, and it just feels like if you were with someone who had just passed, why would you just hang out in that room? And I thought that was like a nice moment of, it was just a nice reminder of that Al, Saul, Trixie triangle. And so I just felt like she was going to be staying there a little longer to see him through to the end.
Listeners, please send your condolences and just a real gentle comments to Mork at Extraordinary, letting him know that Al has already passed. Just to help him gain acceptance.
Walk me through this.
It's not. Here's the thing that happens, Mork. When someone you love passes, you don't. The second they pass, you don't go, all right, well, that's it for that. I'm out of here.
Okay, but if your newborn baby and husband, or sort of husband, were...
She can get to them later. She can't wait. She can't sit there another 2 minutes.
It felt like...
Oh, man, this is real rough. I wish we could stop this podcast. I need to give you a hug and just
Look, I don't want to admit that he's dead. I don't want to admit it.
I just want to give you a hug and just say,
totally
just keep repeating, it's not your fault until you cry. Goodwill Hunting style.
I may cry.
All right, so
that was that triangle that it's still having 10 years later still being an issue. I thought was really poignant. I thought Seth and Alma's goodbye and sort of very temporary reconnection was great.
I thought the one thing that I thought they were sort of building up to, and maybe it was just because I was interpreting things that didn't pay off, they seemed to sort of tie the fresh young hooker with the hooker that was killed in Trixie's stead to fool Hearst. So I thought maybe there was some sort of connection there. And then when she was just sort of hanging out, I thought, well, I'm not sure what her purpose was.
Yeah, I was not clear about who she was exactly and why she was there. It was interesting because Al, so the gem staff,
I mean, she gets to go right to the top, by the way. She gets to go right to rubbing the boss's feet.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
He gets the freshies.
Obviously.
Okay.
Well, those are.
I mean, I was suspicious of her. I thought she shouldn't be near Al. I mean, she's gonna start killing people.
Right. Well, it was interesting how the gym staff is essentially the same. I mean, Dan, who's the muscle, and Johnny. Who's,
all they're gonna get is some money. I guess they're gonna keep their same jobs because Trixie's the one taking over.
Yes, I don't know what you're pointing at.
Yeah.
Catfish is pointing everybody.
I can point if I want.
Okay.
It's sad for them. They don't
new muscle. that there wasn't any new muscle.
There was new muscle, and the funny thing is, I thought some things were a little bit weird. Like I thought the shanty bar where Hickok got killed.
Yeah.
I would have thought in 10 years maybe
Tom Nuttall.
it would have been maybe a little bit changed. I thought it would have been a funny moment if a Calamity Jane walks in and she goes, right there. And he's like, no, we're down the street from where we were. We're not in the same place. It seems bizarre they're in the same place.
The production designers got it all wrong. One thing that was kind of interesting, and I thought they did a good job of, was the flashbacks, where there weren't really any flashback scenes, but they were just sprinkled throughout. Were a few flashbacks, and that's something that it kind of reminded me of the Limey, where Steven Soderbergh used footage from, I think it was Billy Budd, where he had a younger Terrence Stamp to flash back to, and this was the same thing, except everyone was essentially the same,
right.
And you got to see that the way that it was almost like it accomplished two things that I thought was pretty impressive. One, it served as a little bit of a previously on,
right,
and also it was just effective from to underscore certain things that were going on in the.
Just in case you forgot, like I might have, that there was a little bit of business between Trixie and Hearst.
A little bit, yeah, just a little bit. One thing that, how did you feel, Catfish, about the Hearst? Because that was somewhat unresolved. So, how did you feel about the Hearst goings on in the Deadwood movie?
I didn't think that Hearst would have thought just by killing this guy that he would have been able to bid on the land. See, that was the problem that the mistake Charlie Utter made. He should have said, I'm not selling my land.
Yeah.
And in my will, it goes to Seth. Oh. That way he knows, I can't kill this guy.
And so I don't know if I really understood the mechanics of the probate.
Apparently, if you die, it's probate. I don't know who the money goes to.
Maybe it was auctioned by the bank because he just had a down payment or something on it.
Oh, good point. That's a good point.
But yeah, but also this.
You would still think his kin would have first shot at it.
Oh, that guy doesn't have any kin.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why you put it in your will. Anybody, this is this point for any listeners out there.
Yeah.
If you think someone's going to kill you for your money,
right,
let them know that if you die, the money's going to somebody else.
True.
Not them.
True. Although I may actually put in my will that there needs to be an auction over something.
Oh, that's good, and have everybody show up.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about there were some minor characters we saw. Okay. Strangely, I know we talked about this just a little bit.
Yeah,
it was strange.
What?
To see the principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off after his legal troubles.
Yeah,
that you would think would be awkward, especially with children on set. They would have had to have him on set with no children or someone standing right by him.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's an awful thing. And thanks for bringing it up.
Okay, well, I'm glad I could bring it up. Yeah. Now let's talk about something funny. Another minor character. Yeah, the new mayor of Deadwood. Amazing.
Oh well. Where do you begin?
First of all, they talked about it too, his soliloquies to himself. Well,
time out. He had been mayor previously. When they first, he had been mayor previously when they were first forming the, pseudo government before they got brought into South Dakota. He just asked if he could be mayor, and no one objected, and Swearingen declared him mayor. So
again, though, you would think that maybe having to do with things going 10 years on, that maybe something would have been a little bit like it would have meant something a little bit more. But it did not.
Yeah, and we're talking about the great William Sanderson.
Oh, God, so good.
Newhart, coal miner's daughter. He's been in so many great things.
Oh, you kidding me? Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget him from Blade Runner.
Yeah, no, he is.
In fact, he looked older in Blade Runner than he does here.
Probably does. No, he's one of those guys. He reminds me. He's just one of those greats. He's one of those great character actor. He's one of those character actor greats, rather. Tracy Walter is another guy.
Well, if we're going to talk about greats, though, we got to talk about Brad Dourif, who
absolutely
really is it just in an amazing, what I would term, snit through the entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's so upset about everything. Like that Al's not listening to him,
Sure.
that other people are getting beat up.
Right.
He just all the time, he should put over his door, it should be Dr. Put Out.
Well, look,
he's always put out.
He definitely, it's dealing with those late 19th century HMOs where really, really drove the doctors absolutely crazy.
Now, just to go on a thought experiment here.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Do you think
17.
Do you think if Al had decided to go with the Eastern medicine, as is popular here in California in the late 20th century, early 21st century, do you think that would have helped him? Or do you think it was too late?
I think it may have been a tad.
Just a touch too late?
Just a tad late. But yeah, he didn't seem to want to stick around much. He felt like he had done his.
That really did feel that way.
Duty.
In fact, the funny thing is, I turned to you at one point and I said, "You see what's going to happen here?" Because to me, it really felt like they were selling for a long time. That Swearingen is going to be like, "I'm on the way out.
I'll take out Hearst."
Right. It really felt to me like they were pushing that because that way he could have saved Trixie, and he's already on his way out.
Well,
but it just felt like he didn't want to walk anywhere.
Yeah, and to clarify, I think it was more sacrifice myself to Hearst because as a real character, and this actually was distracting in another way too. So a lot of these characters were real people and a lot different. George Hearst lived a lot longer than that. I knew that, but so did Seth Bullock. Seth Bullock was buddies with Teddy Roosevelt and marched in one of his inaugural parades, and so that was years later. So it's like, all right, well, they're probably going to live. But have you
ever seen a Quentin Tarantino movie?
Have I not?
I mean, I'm just saying, World War II ended differently.
It's true. I
can't wait to see what happens with Charles Manson.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I felt like they were slightly more interested in. I mean, they definitely changed things. Hearst was not in real life. In real life, he was not that much of a monster. Swearingen was obviously not that charming.
Right.
A dude. What did you think about?
But do you think he really enjoyed cocksucking?
Saying it or doing it?
I mean, I think saying it or receiving it.
I mean, well,
I don't want to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
but I don't know.
That was one of Ian McShane's great lines, which I'm sure he said, a million times. But it was. Yeah, I mean, it's not just saying 3 pages of dialogue, getting a blowjob, and stabbing somebody. It's more than that.
Yeah.
Or something.
They did tell a funny story how they tried to do the dubbing.
They tried to do a clean version.
They tried to do a clean version, and then they ended up... Well, the funny thing is, it sounded like Robin Weigert did a bunch, and she was actually talking about some of the ones she was proudest of making up.
Yeah.
And then on the stage, they said, "Oh, we're not going to do it anymore."
Yeah. And then Oliphant
was like, "Oh, thank God I just got an email about that today, so I can tell him screw that."
Right. Ignoring that one.
All right. Well, do you have any other thoughts about, again, we're not really going to go into this in detail. We're going to talk a little bit about Good Omens next. So any other thoughts that you want to share about Deadwood? Obviously, we both enjoyed it greatly. Mm-hmm. We got free chicken sandwiches and succotash. Chips.
Chocolate chip cookies.
All the popcorn and soda we wanted.
Popcorn and soda. Yeah, it was a big night.
Yeah, it was a big night.
Yeah.
All right, so that was our review. Deadwood, we're going to give it 2 cocksucking thumbs up.
I'm gonna. Oh man, we might need to cut this out. I actually had not really. I mean, it was a 10, but man, I gotta. Tell me about that shirt, Catfish.
Oh boy, I don't even know what is going on now. All right, so look, we're gonna dip now into Good Omens. As I said, Mork was invited to this, but he decided not to go. And this was funny. This is
because I knew it wasn't going to live up to Deadwood. That's why.
Well, strangely enough, it did live up to Deadwood, and I'll tell you why. This is loyal listeners will know I get to go to a lot of these kinds of cool events because I'm a member of the Television Academy, and I get to vote on Emmys, so they're always trying to suck up to us and give us free food and let us see things early, begging for our vote. But Amazon Prime, in fact, hosted this other event that I heard wind of that was free, that was at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Hollywood, California.
Now, Catfish, do you want to explain to some folks what
I was just going to explain all about Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Look, I didn't see it. I'm just trying to help out here.
All right. A Hollywood Forever Cemetery, there's a group called Cinespia, and they do, mostly it's during the summers, they do screenings of movies, and they project a movie against a crypt, and it is super cool. You can bring chairs, blankets, all that kind of stuff. And for this event, they actually had free food as well. So, and this was just an event that was free to the public. All you had to do was get the tickets.
What exactly was the food made of?
Well, there were some dumplings.
Okay.
And they were they were called Deadwood dumplings, so I don't know what they were made from.
Did they?
But whatever the pigs were eating,
Yeah, was it from Mr. Wu's pigs?
Mr. Wu's pigs
There was
dumplings.
a great Bullock instructed Wu to feed somebody to the pigs. Let me just
feed them
say,
to the pigs.
I
Yep.
loved the burst of action. I thought were done really, really well.
All right, great. So, thank you for being a part of that Good Omens discussion. I'm gonna go through this very, very briefly. I read Good Omens when it came out. Maybe not when it came out, but shortly after. It came out in 1990. And Neil Gaiman said at this event, he was at the event, he introduced it. He said that Terry Pratchett said one of the things, it's this strange kind of not dichotomy, a strange coincidence here that Terry Pratchett, who is the co-writer of Good Omens, also has Alzheimer's right now. And so he basically has stopped writing and has dropped out of the public. Or did he pass away?
I think he
passed away. Oh, boy. Okay. This really hurts. This hurts. Right. So he did pass away, but he had Alzheimer's. So he said to Neil Gaiman, please try and get this up. Now, I was very concerned about this because Neil Gaiman, I don't know what his effect on the second season of American Gods and sort of the dissolution of the original creative team for American Gods, but he said that he wanted to do this show. He wrote the entire show.
Oh, really?
He was the showrunner for the entire show so that nobody could tell him anything. And so I was a little concerned, and I have to say, I could not have loved the first episode of Good Omens any more than I did. I will say this, he did say that what's funny is that 3/4 of the cast is not in the first episode. And I'll say one thing that I thought was very smart of him is that there's a lot going on in the book, and he did not bring in, we heard some of the words of Agnes Nutter were read by God, and God is Frances McDormand.
Perfect.
So that is great. But we did not have Anathema Device in the first episode, and I think that actually helped make things really, really super clean. So we set up everything that was going to go down. I assume, again, we only saw the first episode. By the time you hear this, you may have seen all 6 of them. I assume she's going to be brought in. I know we had John Hamm, Neil Gaiman said John Hamm told him a while ago how much he loved the book, so he wrote a part that's not in the book. John Hamm appears as Gabriel the Angel. And we saw from seeing him here and stuff that we see in the future, he's more like kind of a functionary. Gabriel is a very pretty, handsome, dim-witted functionary. So we'll see that. But I thought that it was really funny.
Is it one and done? Is it just these 6 episodes?
I don't know. The strange thing is, I kind of hope it is.
Yeah.
Just because,
the book, it wasn't that big.
No, it's not that big of a book. I mean, I suppose you could extend it, but part of the joy, if they were able to do all 6 episodes, boom, they end it perfect. I mean, this is sort of the British model. They do a lot of things where they're very short, 6, 8, and some of them don't come back. And I almost think that I have not watched many of the succeeding seasons of American Horror Story, but that is what I enjoyed so much about the first season. Instead of trying to extend it, I thought it was a normal thing where they're going to try to extend it, and they actually wrap that story up.
Yeah.
And so as much as I love this story and would love to see more in the world, you've got David Tennant in it. I mean,
David Tennant and Michael Sheen. Yeah.
They are both so good. And Michael Sheen is very funny. He's kind of a nervous, good angel.
He's great.
I just thought that it was scripted so beautifully. The first one sets everything up really nicely. It has a very nice sense of British humor. In fact, the opening kind of reminds me of
Game of Thrones.
No. No. It does.
Okay.
It does not.
Benny Hill.
It does not remind me
It's sort
of
a
Game of
cross
Thrones.
between Game of Thrones and Benny Hill.
It's not either of those things. Okay. It is funny that what it reminds me of is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the beginning of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because there is that kind of big setup about how the world is, and so it has an opening,
Right.
you know, that's the voiceover with Frances McDormand as God, and I thought it was a beautiful setup, and then then the interactions between the two of them, it's very funny. It's just, I mean, I have such high hopes for the rest of the series, and to me, it couldn't have been any better. It could not have been any better, and
Phenomenal.
free food.
Oh, really? What they serve?
Well, let me tell you, because they had options. You had a card that you could punch, and you could go to different places and get the food.
Like a food
now,
truck.
we were in early, but we didn't go get food right away, so that was a mistake. So then by the time we got to the food, it was really long. So all we could have was the pot stickers, which were really good. It's like Monster pot stickers or something. There's a new pot sticker place in Hollywood, and we'd already ordered from there, and it's really good.
Wow.
So I'll tell you about that. And then there was a long line for the soda popcorn.
Can I just say to Double L's that there's nothing more intense than staring right into Catfish's
and talking
eyes
about food.
as he talks about
food.
As he talks about pot stickers.
Pot stickers is so good.
I feel like I've just been sung Happy Birthday.
So anyway,
by Elsewhere Engine.
Mork, I mean, I don't know. Do you have any familiarity with the book? Have you read any books either by Terry Pratchett or Neil Gaiman?
Sure. No. I have not read Good Omens. I've read a lot of Neil Gaiman. I've read some of Discworld by Terry Pratchett and some of his other stuff, and I think they're both terrific. I can see why they'd want to team up. But I haven't read this yet.
All right.
No.
I mean, I think it's funny because a friend of mine said, I want to read the book again before the series come out, and I said, why? At this point, like, let the series wash over you instead of. This is what I always feel. If you haven't read something or you read something a really long time ago, don't read it again. So that while you're watching it, you're gonna be saying to, instead of enjoying it and letting it wash over, you're gonna be, well, this is different than the book, and this is better, this is worse.
There's always more.
Instead of being critical.
No. I would definitely. You read it after. There's always more in the book, and you want the. God, are there any examples like recently of books being sort of different than the adaptation, and that drove people crazy?
No, nothing like that. I will say
keep an eye out.
I will say there's only one book I've ever read that is no more complex than the movie.
The Bible.
That is absolutely true. And second to that is Election. The book Election is literally about 140 pages.
What about,
so they cover every single nuance in the movie.
Did you ever read Sideways?
Yes, I read Sideways a couple years after the movie.
Okay.
I don't remember the book. Anyway, so we have talked about two shows, one of which I really liked, and the other one I really liked, and one that you liked, and one that you don't even know anything about. But
that's
can
not
watch
bad.
it. So a lot of great content. I'm super excited. I couldn't be any more excited. I mean, after the way Game of Thrones ended with Joffrey returning to the throne.
Yep.
I mean, things are just swinging our way. Well, I mean, he hid.
Exactly.
He hid for a while.
Exactly.
All right. So this is Catfish
And Mork.
And this is a movie corner.
Yeah. Hey.
An entertainment corner.
Absolutely.
With two Hollywood guys who are strong enough to remain in Hollywood.
That is true.
It's tough to be in this city.
Thank you, Rent Control.
Yeah, it's tough to be in the city, and we don't mind people who are too chicken to stay in the city, who have to move, go back home.
Well, look, sometimes Hotlanta calls.
Yeah. It is hot right now. All right, loyal listeners, thank you so much for listening to us. Enjoy Deadwood the movie and Good Omens,
2
the
for 2, people.
series.
2 for 2.
2 for 2.
Double P podcast. Double P.
What I like to call
Double P.
what I like to call
Double P podcast.
Welcome.